Right, greetings everybody. Happy weekend to you. Hopefully you are doing well. Hopefully things are going good for you, and if not, hopefully things get better soon. So, Umbra here today to talk a little bit about meta tier lists. Now, I personally don't really enjoy making meta tier lists. It's not something that I do regularly. We'll talk about team composition. I will even talk about where I think characters are in the meta, but I don't like putting a list to something, especially this year, because this year there's been a lot of movement. It feels like constantly characters are shifting from the top of the meta all the way down, and like it's so volatile that it's hard to get too excited. But today I figured we do just that. We would take a look at the newest meta tier list to come out of the JP side. Now, this is taking into account a lot of stuff from pro players. This is and also just comments from people playing the JP side. And I don't expect everyone to agree with this. I expect people's own experiences to be varying and whatever. I don't care. Okay. Before we get into it, you can comment as much as you like in the comment section, but I'm not going to care. I'm not going to fight anybody because it just doesn't matter. I mean, I do fully 100% believe that the 5th anniversary, whatever it brings, will completely put everything on its head once again. And who knows even what that is, and until we get the live stream that is coming up probably fairly shortly, I don't even think it's really worth worrying about, just to enjoy the ride, so to speak. But if you take a look at what has happened over the course of this year and the sheer breadth of characters that do exist in this game, you know, even looking at my roster of characters, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, I mean, there's still a bunch of characters that I am missing that I just don't have and never will get. But there is a wide breadth of characters in this game. And it is not getting any smaller anytime soon. We'll be in probably a bunch more characters, including Dark Veritas, which I really hope is going to be a cool character with something new from the 5th anniversary style of characters. All right. Now, one last thing, shameless self-promotion. I am doing these Halloween videos. They are grab baggy, really short in the sense that they're only 1 hour, first couple of hours at most of Halloween-themed games. It's fun. It's enjoyable. I thank you to everybody who's participated in the poll, letting me know some ideas of maybe what systems to focus on. Alien Isolation, I can't promise it. And even if it's only going to be maybe a couple hours of it anyway, but I'll see what I can do. As for anybody who wants Super Ghosts and Goblins or Ghouls and Goblins or whatever that series is called, no, just no on that one. I'm sorry, I can't do that one. It's too painful. But there will be some more PlayStation games, and Resident Evil 1 Part 2 will be up today, and then there'll be something different tomorrow. Shameless promotion over. Let's get on with the show. So this is the most recent thing that I believe has even just come out as of today, where there has been a lot of movement. And we can also note that characters are rated from basically God tier all the way down to B rank. And there's been a bunch of movement between this one and the previous one. I think 7 characters have changed spots, which for even a short period of time, that's pretty monumental in terms of meta shift. So let's take a look at what we got. Starting with the easiest place to look at, which I think is just God tier, where the characters up here are extreme meta outliers that are essentially fundamentally choosing what teams are and look like right now. And I do 100% agree with these 5 characters. Sadali was probably the most surprising to me because I don't feel like I see him that much. And even though I do have him, I just don't consider him to be like that amazing for me yet. He's not a character that I super well use, and the earth element is not something that I'm overly crazy about, and wind is essentially everywhere, so I kind of don't think that he was that good before. Now, with the surge in Lightning's popularity, however, Sadali has found more than a worthwhile place in the actual meta that has actually boosted him. And it should be noted that both Resnick as well as Luciel are actually in the God tier meta, which, yeah, I mean, they have enough tools in their kit to make them just versatile and useful. But more than that, they're just supporting strong characters right now, and in the combination of vision cards and characters that have come out recently in the Magic style meta, yeah, they're really good. And of course, Resnick just, anti-cursing and anti-doing some status effects is just way too valuable to ignore. So, I mean, the God tier meta, there isn't anything I think here that's too surprising when you consider where JP is and what has happened with the movement of characters. You'll notice that Sephiroth is just not top anymore, and I do think that is correct, because while lately it feels like fire evasion seems to be something that people have been doing with Sephiroth, other than just his sheer popularity as a character, where we constantly see him in a lot of teams and a lot of people got him and put a bunch of resources into him, I don't overly feel like he's been that super well performing with the new characters that have coming out that just kind of beat him a little bit. So let's move into Triple S. And if there is one very noteworthy thing here, I would say that two tactics characters making their way into a vastly agreed upon Triple S, almost the best tier of characters in the game, Agrias and Orlando have definitely earned their spots. Between the status effects from Agrias and just the sheer fortitude of Orlando, it's impressive that they are standing at the same level as characters such as Gilgamesh, AC Sephiroth, Ashen Mont, as well as Spring June, Cloud, Cypher. There's almost no one that I disagree in this tier list for the Triple S category. I think that everyone here deserves their spot. If there's one that I think kind of is the biggest outlier, it's almost certainly Angela from the Trials of Mana collaboration. I don't feel like her performance is that high. I don't see her that often, so maybe there's just a few people who vouched incredibly hard for this character. She is a current year character anyway, so it's not that surprising, but I feel like she's on that cusp of, I would say that you could probably knock her down to double S out of anybody in this tier. Other than that, Dario maybe is a little bit surprising because he is a fairly aged character by today's standard and just how much power creep we've seen in the game. But again, with wind characters like Shrekken and mages coming back in, Dario's found a nice little spot. But characters such as Ashen Mont, Spring June are still plenty good and definitely worthy of the Triple S spot, in my honest opinion. There's enough healthy representation of a bunch of elements right now that you feels like you can carve out a niche. And rainbow teams are definitely popular, but mono element teams are seeing a little bit of a resurgence, and that might be because of lightning specifically. I mean, if you look at it in terms of the elements here, just pure elemental, the highest combinations are probably fire, wind, and lightning for overall having access to, just their pure element. We see 3 wind characters very comfortably in the upper echelon of this game. Same with fire, who also is kind of playing on the evasion route. Earth, there's only essentially 2 as far as Triple S. Lightning, we have an easy, comfortable 3, and they are very good characters. And water, well, water has 2 as well. Dark isn't exactly overreaching, and I think I've talked about Earth, so that is essentially where we are. Getting into the double S tier is encouraging, though. I think that the net positives from this overall meta tier list is it's really nice to see the Veritas units in here. Light is not included in this, and I think that's quite fair because she hasn't been around long enough. I don't think it's even possible on JP to have her beyond 89. I have her at 79. And I think even if you put her into the barracks and you were constantly using that booster juice, which is a Canada smoothie company, by the way, it's just too early to know whether that character. But yeah, all of the Veritas units being essentially basically free characters and being in the double S range is quite nice. Anything else to note here? A2 still hanging in there, as well as Old Doa. Summer Glassy definitely taking a bit more of a hit because of Thunder Astrius in there. Kadaj even hanging out. Fina as well. And Lemire, who just used for, I guess, specifically her Time Mage abilities. From there down to S, nothing too noteworthy. Splashable characters that people potentially use for different situations. I can see where Tifa and Ice Howlet are maybe even a little bit lower than I think, because I think in your ice comps that I've been playing against, they don't go very badly in any way, but also not great. But we can start to see this is really where previous year's characters start popping in a lot and have been pushed down from where they were previously much higher. A rank, in here we can see Delita just being right in this, right smack dab in there. Oh yeah, and I should mention Ramsay gets as far as S rank, which I do agree, yes, Ramsay is better than Delita, but not too terribly much. No, definitely should not be placed anywhere near as high. Although Ramsay, maybe you could make a bit more of a case for. But taking a look at the lower ranks, I mean, you can still see some characters, some popular characters hanging in there. Good for various and specific situations, and, you know, just things that people still honestly believe are valuable. But if you're looking for higher tier teams, if you're looking for combinations, this doesn't necessarily represent any kind of success by just saying, well, all three god tier characters. Okay, bad example. But 3 triple S characters, is that enough to get somewhere? Well, you kind of need the vision cards, the equipment, and maybe even the right map in some cases. But Veritas units are being readily used and are pretty successful from my JP perspective. And I think it's kind of interesting to see what an impact that Tactics actually had, where we had such a big movement. Probably that thing or that event of just all of those character upgrades was such an upheaval to the game that it shook things up a bit. Not so much in the highest tier, but is what it is. So if there is something that I want to close out on, it's definitely the idea that Tactics, it was and is just the kind of best thing to happen to the game, and I really want to see it more. I want to see the original FF7 cast, the original FF8 cast, all of those characters from the past get these kind of upgrades, because it wasn't just, you know, good for the game, it wasn't just good for players, it was interesting, it was fun, it was exciting. It's the biggest heartbeat that we've gotten this entire year. And hell, it even brought players back, so something was done horribly right. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you next time.